Hi, everybody. I'll do a lecture today about Chapter 4 in your textbook, and that is the Roman Republic, which is certainly an important part of the Western tradition. It really becomes emblematic of so many things and a constant sort of touch point, reference point in Italy, in Western culture. Italy, interestingly enough, developed later than a lot of the societies in the Near East. About 100 about 1000 BC, Italy was overwhelmed by invaders who cremated their dead, made iron and stone tools, and spoke a number of languages that were more or less related. And later on, Etruscans arrived in Tuscany about 800 BC and established themselves in a series of self-governing city-states. And out of this is what Rome really came from. Even though there was some political instability, the Etruscan influence on Rome remained, especially in religion. Now, the early part of the Roman government, a republic ruled by kings whose powers were limited by a series of advisors who composed the Senate, and the Senate was also an assembly of the people. So right away we see a definite similarity to the Greek democracy, more or less. There was also a similar debate in Roman life over militarization and democracy and other things like this. But like traditional societies in this time period, including Greece, the center of life was really the family unit, which was all important in this society. The problem with Rome, though, is that they were divided in a variety of ways, primarily through the orders, through the class system. The upper class, which was the plebeians, the patricians, rather, were the upper class. These people monopolized all positions of power. They had influence over the priesthood. They were, ruled everything, whereas the plebeians, the lower classes, were actually barred from the priesthood, barred from public office. And over the course of about 200 years, these two orders, the patricians and the plebeians, struggled for power. But by 287 BC, through absolutely legal means, the plebeians gained access to the government and a full voice in the government. But still, you have that maintenance of the tradition of families really having domination over Roman society. Now, just because Rome is consolidated doesn't mean the rest of Italy is. If you know anything about Italy, you probably know that this is a very diverse country, that it is affected with regionalism, well, to an extent, unlike a lot of the countries in the world, that the regions are very different. Northern Italy and Southern Italy, for example, are very different places, and Italy was not truly united as a country after the Roman Empire. Split up several times. It wasn't united again until 1861. So Italy is always been a sort of a dangerous coalition of competing interests and so forth. So it took the Romans 200 years to conquer Italy and to subdue the Etruscan cities and some of the Latin cities and Greek cities, and that Greek influence becomes all important. The Roman, much like the Macedonians, dealt with their conquered cities quite liberally. They offered citizenship to many of them, allied status to the rest of them, only demanding some amount of tribute. The thing is, of course, now Rome is, in its consolidation and growing power, coming up against Carthage, which was the great naval power of the Mediterranean, especially the Western Mediterranean. There were a series of wars between Rome and Carthage, and Rome really had to push it to the limit here, especially in the Second Punic War against Hannibal, one of the greatest generals in history. But in the end, Rome did conquer Carthage. Carthage was destroyed, and the political contact between Greece and Rome in the meantime led to a lot of cross-fertilization. So Roman education is patterned on Greek education. The Roman gods, the Roman religion is patterned after the Greek religion. They just changed the gods' names. There's study in philosophy and rhetoric and continuing this process of Hellenization, of the growth and spreading and modification of Greek culture. So Rome's expansion here was certainly amazing. It becomes a very powerful state, especially in the Mediterranean, and fanning out from there. What we see here is a utilization of, if you like, Greek technology about politics and everything else. I hate to use the term technology, but it's, I suppose, technology is any sort of system or arrangement or idea that works, that gives you control or power or anything like that. So using that Greek knowledge, that cultural tradition of the West, that technology, Rome became the primary power in the world over a period of time. So Rome becomes this huge power. Its responsibility, wealth, power all come along with it. Rome has a constitution that was adapted and tested by its need to govern the seas. By the middle of the 2nd century, Rome has a manpower problem, and they have to eventually bring in, a situation whereby politics in Rome was changed forever. That politicians could now go directly to the people, that people could have a voice, drawing upon a very limited form of that Greek popular assembly. However, with the growth of power comes growth in danger. That Roman citizenship is a prize, to certainly be respected and to be desired. But Roman state itself is very difficult to hold together. And there's a variety of coalitions and problems in this period, and a little bit of instability, which leads in the end to the rise of Julius Caesar and then Mark Antony and his 18-year-old heir Octavian. Caesar has a lot of problems because he becomes a conqueror of other peoples. Caesar is the man, Julius Caesar is the man who changes the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. And as a result of this, he is assassinated by a variety of senators who wanted to restore the Republic. But of course, this backfired. All they got from it is 13 years of civil war, after which the Roman Republic was dead forever. But in subsequent history, this period of the Roman Republic is seen as sort of a halcyon days, as a very good time to be alive, that power was more or less balanced out, that people lived more or less in peace. It's a little bit of a mythologizing process that we do in retrospect in history. But there is some truth to it, that Rome did become a powerful republic and a rather wealthy place, not without problems, of course, but they became that in the framework of the democratic republic, more or less democratic. But when the empire came around, of course, that's when things got very complicated and Rome began to overreach. But that doesn't mean, of course, that Rome is going to be collapsing anytime soon, because Rome certainly does become a world power, the most considerable world power that anyone has ever seen up to the point when it existed. It's not certain what Caesar meant to do. He did have the title of dictator for life. That brought back a lot of fears from the previous experience of the tyrants in Greece and so forth. But in another way, Caesar is a new kind of ruler. Caesar did not have any intention of aligning himself with traditional Roman aristocracy. What he would have done if he had lived is one of the big questions. But in the end, Caesar's heir, Octavian, forms a coalition with supporters and conservatives that proves more successful in the long run. So the Roman Republic gets its imperial status and continues in a large part because they do have to make some allowances for traditional power centers in the Roman state. So in chapter 5, we see a discussion of the Roman Empire that deals with its prosperity, its decline, and its fall. And the imperial administration, the foreign policy, the literature and architecture are all astounding, as is the rise of other ideas within it, most especially the Christianity. And of course, the Roman Empire ends with the barbarian invasions of the 5th century. So the Roman Empire gets its start basically with the Emperor Octavian being determined to avoid the mistakes and the fate of Julius Caesar. He develops a system to keep peace by keeping most of the power in his own hands, but pretended that this was a restoration of the Republic, with Octavian as the first citizen as opposed to the emperor. So it shows you the use of propaganda and deceit in politics. I assume that's the best lesson we can learn from that. But that is a fact of the Roman Empire, as we'll see in part 2 of this lecture.